Hello everybody, this is going to be a bonus class, okay? So since I am teaching English, so we can use any subject to discuss and use to learn English, right? So I can choose a subject and then we can discuss about it and then you can use that subject to learn English, vocabulary and many things like we do in everyday classes, right? So the book is only an excuse to find a topic to actually talk in English. And then we watch the video and then we kind of try to discuss in class to build up your vocabulary, things like that. But this semester, because of the pandemics getting restricted again, so I end up just teaching few classes face to face, and the majority of my classes were online. And we arrived to the end of the semester, is still teaching online. So I have to do the final exams online. And because of that, the nature of the online is kind of you're doing the test in your dormitories, you're together with your classmates over there, you can look at the book, right? So it's supposed to give a test that is kind of a fit for the situation. So, but I was always telling you that in my class, right? My class is not that difficult. So my class is easy. For example, when you deliver your homework, I don't care too much if it's wrong or right. I just care that if you try to do your best, right? As long as you try to do it, so you are learning. I always also foster a lot that your participation in my class, because if you stay quiet, you're not learning. But one thing that I value a lot is your integrity, right? For example, I give you this semester a test, right, online. So you have to go to my website and answer 25 questions. They're very easy questions. I already gave this test for many classes, and I have no even one student that got less than 20 questions right. So and they did it very fast. So I think it's kind of easy, right? So it's not no brainer, right? It's not difficult. So I don't know why you guys are so worried about it. I feel like I'm telling you that you guys are so worried because I have seen a lot of things that I don't like it. For example, we have two parts on the test, right? So we have a part that is in the website and another part that you need to record the message and answer one question orally. And I see students, for example, recording a message for me, but in the background, I hear the other student dictating. And the student who are recording a message is repeating what the other students telling him to do it. So this is not nice, right? And I want you to do on your own, not repeating what the other students are telling you to do. I have seen I have seen students doing like this, and I, for example, today got one student who sent me. I asked you guys to print a PDF and send me the result so I can see the result and type in the result on my spreadsheet, right? To give your grades. And I see one student send me another student paper and he forgot to erase the other student's name and put his own name. I don't know, he forgot to do that and he sent me another student's. And then I enter in the system and I look his file. He tried the test 4 times and he could not get 25. He only get the maximum of 23 questions. Because of only 2 questions, he was willing to compromise his integrity. He was willing to cheat, right? So just send me a score, a paper which has 25 questions correct instead of his own 23 correct, because only 2 questions, right? So I feel like you should value your integrity much more than that. You're selling yourself too cheap. So this is the bonus class. I'm going to talk about ethics. Ethics is kind of the same way of talking about. Okay, it's kind of my computer is kind of slowing down here a little bit, but it's gonna okay. Ethics is kind of the same thing of honesty. Okay, ethics is another term for to refer to honesty. Okay, so let's talk about this. I want to share a story with you guys. A story that happens in France Revolution in the years of 1789. Okay, 1789. So, and in the story of the France, there's a place called Bastille. So this is where they took political prisoners. Okay, and there's a reason why I want to share this story. Okay, so let's go and see the story first. So this story was reported by Von J. Featherstone. So he said like this: many years ago, I heard a story of the son of the King Louis XVI of France. King Louis had been dethroned and taken to the Bastille, right? So the for prisons for politicians. The revolutionaries took the prince, his son, and took him to another place. Even though he was even though he was the heir to the throne, they thought if they could morally destroy him, he would never know the great and remarkable destiny that life has prepared for him. So he was supposed to be the next king, but their opponents, their enemies, think of if you can destroy him morally, he will never know that. He will never arrive to be a king, the next king. And also they carry him to a distant city. And so they carry him to a distant city where they left the boy exposed to the most defeating things the world could offer. They made him enjoy delicacies whose refinement would soon make him a slave to the appetite. Those who live around them use the lowest language possible. They force him to live with obscene and depraved women. They expose the boy to disgrace and dishonesty. Day and night he was surrounded by the most terrible circumstances that could drag a man's soul to the worst level of degradation possible. The prince received this treatment for more than 6 months, but not once he did give in to the pleasure that was imposed upon him. Finally, after exposing him to all kinds of temptation, his captors inquired, why had he refused to give in to his appetites, and had not participated in anything they offered to him? They were things that would give him pleasure, and they were all within reach. The young man replied, I cannot do as I am asked, for I was born to be a king. So to live a moral, high standard life is worthy of a king. So I wanted to share another thing. This is real in our time. For example, I don't know how many of you know this president of the United States. He was in the presidency, and I remember when the scandal happened, right? He kind of went over with his secretary, and such a scandal has nothing to do with his ability to or capacity to do a good job as a United States president. But it did demoralize him as a president. He lose his reputation. How can a man with no moral can govern a country, right? So moral is very important. So it takes a long time for people to trust in you, but it takes 1 second to break the trust, right? So for example, if you know to be an honest person and then you lie once, so you lose the trust for the people who you're relying. So this has happened to the President Clinton. After the scandal, he was demoralized. So let me share another experience that I had when I was in Brazil. In 2003, I was a teacher in Brazil. So I teach in Brazil for almost 3 years. And this is where I got the experience that they asked me if I had some teaching experience before coming to China. So I was teaching this university here, they call Unipar University. So and the principal asked me, well, Gameiro, can you replace one teacher that's he's kind of giving up teaching, so I don't have any other teacher to take his class. And I said yes, okay. And this was going to be for only 1 semester. And I kind of have this was a big class, and I was teaching them during the night. And It was kind of a hard to control them because Brazilian students are very different than Chinese students. They talk a lot, and sometimes I need to stop class and say, "Hey, you guys need to pay attention." But I did one experiment back then, and the experiment was like this: I give them a test, right? And next week I came back with the test, and I distribute the test back to them. And when they saw the test, oh, teacher, you did not correct the test. And I said, yes, I didn't correct your test. So let's do it now. So I was kind of putting the right answer in the blackboard and asked them to correct their own test. So after I correct all the questions, I asked the students to tell me their grades. So one by one, they start telling, teacher, my grade was 100. Oh, my teacher, my grade was 95. My grade was 90. So all of them dictate their grades to me so that I could put on the paper. And after all the students did this, I reached to my bag and showed them the copy I made of their test, made of their quiz. So I correct the copy, not the original. The original I gave back to them. And then they realized that how foolish they were, because all the students are dictating better grades than they really have. For example, a student who maybe got 80, they tell me, I got 95. So all of the students increased their grades, but only three students in a class of 60 were honest. I was kind of a little bit disappointed because you cannot teach honesty in a university. I remember once, this is what I told here, right? And I only did this experiment with the students to grading their own test. And almost all of them increased their grades. I feel like we have a problem in the society, right? People feel like if they cheat, they have an advantage. But I feel like it is otherwise. So let me share another experience, okay? This guy, his name is Herbert J. Grant, and he had a reputation for honesty, okay? So Herbert J. Grant turned down an appointment to be a Naval Academy and pursue business interest. So when he was young, he turned down to pursue the Naval Academy, and he became a businessman. He pursued then with vigor through good times and bad times, through success and reversals, right? So when the things bad happening, he walked with such a courage and well-earned credentials that not even his comparative youth stood in his way. So he was inescrupulously honest. And let me read this next paragraph. By the time he became the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Herbert had many friends in the business world, like he was an administrator. For his ability and integrity was so great that he simply took that ability was so great that they simply took the position that nothing he had anything to do with could not be at least a bit dishonest or bad. So he was saying that if something was wrong, he would not agree with that. He's kind of exposed and try to fix it. He would not go with agreeing with any kind of dishonesty, right? And he was known, very well known, for this kind of a position that he had his whole life, and he built up his reputation. And that one day, he received this letter here. Let me show you. And then one day, one of his friends from the business world wrote him this letter when he became the president of the church. He wrote one of the experience like this. I had a letter of one prominent person in the world so far as business affairs are concerned. So one of a person that's from the business world, okay? And he was a manager of a great corporation. And he said, I never thought very much of the leaders of the Mormon people. In fact, I thought they were very bright, keen, designing a lot of fellows, getting rich from the ties that they gather from a lot of ignorant and superstitious and overzealous religious people. But now that you are one of the 15 men at head of the Mormon church, I apologize for the other 14. I know that if there were anything crooked in the management of the Mormon church, you would give it all away. So he has such a reputation that the men start, well, if there's something wrong there, I know he would expose that. So now he's apologizing for the other 14, right? So this is called integrity, okay? This is called honesty. Okay, now let me share another story, okay? So many years ago, I was working in Agroreservas do Brasil. This is the Brasilia, this is the capital of Brazil, and Agroreservas do Brasil was located here. So it was a big farm. I was hired to be one of the managers, so to oversee the agriculture. And actually, this is my bachelor's degree. So I am an engineer, agricultural engineer. So I remember that I was competing against a lot of other candidates for this job, and and this is another picture here. This is the size of the farm, right? This is me in the field. This is me in the office, and this is my dog at that time. So when I was kind of be interviewed for the job, I was getting. I remember there was a lot of other candidates having going for the interview as well, and I saw some of them in the farm when I was there. So I end up being the lucky one and get the job, right? So, and they told me that one of the reasons that they actually hire me was because I speak good English. So I'm telling you guys all the time, right? So if you study well, be able to learn English well, this is gonna bless your life. So I didn't have the most experience about the farm. I mean, the agriculture experience. I was kind of a recently graduated. I didn't have too much experience working in the field, but they hired me because of my English. But 1 month later, the human resource manager told me something. We feel like you are a good person, that you are honest, and this is also the second thing that we evaluate in you. And he told me, I know you don't have too much experience, but experience is something that you can learn. We can provide, for example, if you work in this company for a few years, you get the experience. But one thing that we cannot teach other people to be is honest. So integrity is something that you cannot teach people to do. And they hired me because they felt like I was an honest person. So honest is something that you cannot buy and that you cannot teach other people, right? But it is important. I feel, for example, what about the students who cheat in my test? And I caught them doing this. For example, the guy who sent me another classmate paper instead of his own paper. So wasn't he going to be able to ask me for a letter of reference? No, right? So he knows that it's not nice thing to do, right? So he's never gonna ask me for me to vouch for him. For example, I have a lot of students, good ones, who sometimes reach me and we chat and say, teacher, can you write me a letter of reference? I wanted to study abroad, and they asked me to provide some references letter. And I'm gladly to provide for them because I know how good they are. They're good students. They sit in the front. They participate, right? But there are some students who does not participate in class. They sit in the back and they cheat on the test, right? So do you think such a student could ask me a letter of reference, right? No, of course not, right? I wanted to share another experience. Maybe you guys know this one, Benjamin Franklin. He was on one of the. Here's a little part of his biography. He's an American printer, author, diplomat, philosopher, scientist, whose many contributions to the cause of the American Revolution and the newly formed federal government that followed rank him among the country's greatest statesmen. So he was very famous, right? And this is what I'll share something that is come from his biography, okay? So Benjamin Franklin said in his autobiography, there was a salt pan that limited the face of the Mills water reservoir on the edge of which the high mare were used to settle or for fishing cadousals. Due to the fact that we go there, we often turn the place into a simple ravine. My intention was to build a pier where we could stay, and I indicate to my companions a large pile of stones that was intended for the construction of a new house near the south pen, and that we would adapt, and that would adapt wonderfully to our plan. In this circumstance, at dusk, when workers left on the works left work, I gather a certain numbers of my playmates and work diligently like little ants, sometimes carrying two or three the same stones. We took them all to the place and built our little pier. So they stole, right? They stole those stones. They steal those stones. An investigation was carried out to find out who had removed the stones. For this reason, we were discovered and rebuked. Many of us have caught up their parents, and although I had claimed the usefulness of the work, my father convinced me that nothing can be useful as long as it is not honest. Okay, these are the slide shares that I prepared to talk about honesty. And for example, my classes are easy. I try to make it fun, and my homeworks, for example, as I told you, I grade you. I give you positive grades, maybe the maximum, just for trying to do the homework. And I told you that the test is going to be easy. And as I see, no one ever. I applied this test already. I don't know, 7 times already. No one ever got less than 20, and I only have 25 questions. So it's easy, and you have no reason to be nervous on my test. You have no reason to cheat. But even though some of you still do, why is that? So I don't get it. I really don't get it. So what is your value? What is your integrity, right? So I'm not mad at you. This is gonna destroy your own life, right? So do you think companies want to hire people who are dishonest? Do you think? Remember, I told you the experience of this when I was hired to be a manager in this company here, right? They told me, well, one of the reasons that they hire me without experience is because they felt that I was an honest person. I stay for the interview for this job 1 whole week in the farm. So they asked me to do assignments, tests. They interviewed me. I was interviewed by the general manager. I was interviewed by the guy who takes care of the cattle. I was interviewed by the guy who spread poison in the crops. I was interviewed by many people, and they thought, well, this guy speaks good English. This is one of the good reasons. This guy seems very honest. They asked me a lot of things. And later, right, the human resource, the human manager, the human resource manager told me, well, we hire you because of those 3 things. We thought you have a good English, you have a potential to learn, you seem to be a very honest person. And he told me, we cannot teach honest. They don't teach honest in universities. The reason I am teaching you this class is because you are still in the university. You maybe when you graduate, you're gonna go out in the world, right, to find jobs. Please reflect upon what I'm telling you right now. There is time to change that. So please change that, right? So I remember when I was teaching this class here in Brazil. So I have almost all students cheated, right? They increase their grades, right? But and then I give the same kind of a lesson that I'm giving you right now. I'm talking about honesty and integrity, and and uh, and later I receive a message from one of the students, and he wrote me something like this: Teacher, this was the most impactful lesson or impactful lecture that I have received in my whole university years. I never thought about honesty that it was so important. I always think about to be successful, carry on my assignments. That was more important, but I never thought about like you taught us today. And I really want to change. I'm really sorry that I increased my grades. I would strive to do better. So I feel like perhaps I was able to change the thoughts of one student at that time when I teach that class, talking about honesty and integrity. And I feel like I can do the same here. So you are young, you have the whole life in front of you. Perhaps you have been misguided, but this is the high road, right? You can do better. You did not born to be cheaters, right? So like the story that I told you here, you were born to be king. In other words, you were born to be the best as you can be. You were born to be good people. Chinese people are good people. I have my best friends here in China. I love this country. And I feel like I can give you this lesson. You can learn it well, right? So this is going to be for your own good. I taught one lesson when I was a few years ago in Jiujian, ethics. Ethics is a kind of a honesty in business companies, right? So I want to conclude this lesson. I want to share a small video, okay? This is going to be 4 minutes after I finish here. So I hope I made you reflect that how important that is. And I see that I did not lose anything by your guys doing what you did, right? A lot of us, I'm not accusing all students to do this, but I know some students did cheat on my test. But the real test is not in the university. The real test is when you go looking for a job, right? So if you don't speak good English, for example, a lot of you get a good grades. Even the ones who try to cheat and they did not discover, you might end up with 100% of your grade. But one day when you go for a job interview, they don't want to see your score. They want to talk to you in English. If you don't speak good English, you will not get the job. So why cheating, right? It's not even important to get a job. So I feel like you can do much better, and I hope I inspire you to do much better. So I'm gonna conclude here now, and I hope you change your mind and you can do better. I'm not talking about every student. I have really good students. Just a few students are feel like they can cheat the system, right? But this is not a good thing to do. And okay, so I'm gonna finish now, and I'm gonna post the video so you can see another story about honesty. Okay, and in the university. All right, see you guys. Bye bye.
There are so many in the world who do not seem to know or care about right or wrong. I wish to speak to you frankly about being honest. Honesty is a moral compass to guide us in our lives. However, the tremendous push to excel in secular learning sometimes tempts us to compromise that which is more important, their integrity and honesty. Cheating in school is a form of self-deception. We go to school to learn. We cheat ourselves when we coast on the efforts and scholarship of someone else. A friend related this experience while her husband was attending medical school. My husband had worked hard on his studies and went to attend his first examination. The honor system was expected behavior at the medical school. The professor passed out the examination and left the room. Within a short time, students started to pull little cheat papers out from under their papers or from their pockets. My husband recalled his heart beginning to pound as he realized it's pretty hard to compete against cheaters. About that time, a tall, lanky student stood up in the back of the room and stated, "I left my hometown and put my wife and 3 little babies in an upstairs apartment and worked very hard to get into medical school. And I'll turn in the first one of you who cheats. And you better believe it." They believed it. There were many sheepish expressions, and those cheat papers started to disappear as fast as they appeared. He set a standard for the class, which eventually graduated the largest group in the school's history. In reality, we are only in competition with ourselves. Others can challenge and motivate us, but we must reach deep down into our souls and call forth our God-given intelligence and capabilities. We cannot do this when we depend on the efforts of someone else. Honesty is a principle, and we have our moral agency to determine how we will apply this principle. We have the agency to make choices, but ultimately we will be accountable for each choice we make. We may deceive others, but there is one we will never deceive. All of us can climb high when we honor every form of truth.